Welcome to today's Explainer. We're jumping right into something absolutely fascinating today, unpacking the exact legal mechanisms being used to hold artificial intelligence accountable. Whether it's a self-driving car navigating your neighborhood streets or a diagnostic algorithm making really heavy health recommendations, the way the law is adapting to AI is honestly nothing short of revolutionary, and it directly impacts every single one of us. I'm thrilled to guide you through this, so let's get into it.
All right, let's kick things off with the ultimate high-stakes question. When an algorithm makes a devastating mistake, who is legally to blame? We're entering this wild era where machines make massive, life-altering decisions, from driving cars to diagnosing patients. But here's the catch. Machines can't go to jail. So how on earth does the legal system adapt to that?
To figure that out, we're going to navigate through these 6 quick areas. We'll start with the AI responsibility gap, look at the personhood trap, explore AI as the phantom agent, touch on the corporate attribution model, break down the accountability frameworks, and finally end up at the human behind the code.
Starting off with Section 1, the AI responsibility gap.
To really grasp how urgent this gap is, just think about this number. Gartner is predicting that by 2026, a staggering 40% of all enterprise apps are going to feature task-specific AI agents. I mean, that's not some far-off sci-fi future, right? That is right now. AI is literally being embedded into the software that runs our daily lives and businesses. But a massive gap emerges because these systems often act in ways their own creators didn't directly program or even foresee.
You know, back in the day, early computer arithmetic researchers warned about this thing called a credibility gap just regarding simple floating point errors. Now take that exact same concept and apply it to modern artificial intelligence. When today's highly complex AI acts unpredictably, and we can't easily explain its internal logic, that credibility gap becomes a total legal minefield. I mean, how do you assign fault to a black box?
Which brings us to Section 2, the personhood trap.
When trying to solve this puzzle, it is so tempting to fall into one of two total extremes. Over on one side, you've got metaphysical denial, basically treating AI as just a done, harmless tool, which totally ignores its autonomy. But on the other side, you've got premature personification. That's treating the AI like it's a conscious human being and trying to give the robot rights. The crucial takeaway here is that both of these fail. Pretending AI is just a calculator ignores reality, but pretending it's a human, that's just a giant distraction that lets the actual corporate creators completely off the hook.
So we need a middle ground, which leads us to Section 3, AI as the phantom agent.
Here's the secret. The law actually doesn't care if an AI has a soul or a biological brain. What it cares about is functional intentionality. Basically, does the system behave with a persistent goal? Does it act as if it intends to do something? For legal purposes, the AI is a phantom agent. It's a legal fiction. No, it's not a real person, but its actions have real, intentional-looking consequences in the physical world that the law absolutely has to address.
Let's ground this with a super interesting real-world example. There was a recent Stanford law experiment where they basically told an AI, hey, build a functioning REST API server. And as it worked, it hit multiple roadblocks, cascading file errors, port errors, the whole shebang. But it actually adapted its strategy, completely on its own, to bypass them. It displayed zero goal drift. It literally never lost sight of the objective, proving it can act with intense functional autonomy. It generated intermediate steps its human programmers never explicitly wrote.
So how do we handle that legally? Let's move to Section 4, the corporate attribution model.
Think about a corporation for a second. It's a legal fiction, right? It has no physical brain, but it can still enter into contracts and it can definitely be sued. We can use this exact same corporate attribution model to hold AI accountable. A corporation acts through its employees and the liability flows right back up to the legal entity. It's the exact same thing with a tech company acting through its AI phantom agents. The AI makes the move, sure, but the legal and financial liability, that flows directly back up to the human designers and deployers.
Okay, let's look at Section 5, accountability frameworks.
So how do courts actually apply this theory and look past the whole black box excuse? Well, they're turning to the Vicar principles. That stands for volition, intent, culpability, and autonomy. This gives courts a structured way to actually quantify an AI's causal contribution to a harmful event. It lets judges and regulators measure a system's capacity to cause harm based on its flawed design and measurable footprint. And the best part? It lets them attach liability without needing the AI to somehow possess a human mind.
To put that into perspective, look at real-world tort law, like the wrongful death claims against the Character.ai chatbot. Courts are looking at a very specific causal chain here. Step 1.
human design choices, maybe optimizing code for user engagement. Step 2, that leads to the AI's autonomous action. Step 3, that induces user reliance or emotional dependency. And finally, step 4, boom, that triggers legal liability. You aren't suing the AI, you're suing the human deployer for the foreseeable reliance their specific design induced.
And applying all these frameworks requires something really crucial: healthy AI risk skepticism. We've got to move away from AI risk denialism, just blindly trusting the machine. Instead, we need a measured, critical view of its potential for harm. We have to openly acknowledge that these systems are risky agents, and we need to evaluate them using these exact legal frameworks.
Which brings us to our final stop, Section 6, the human behind the code.
Lawmakers are already going after the puppet masters pulling the strings. Over in Europe, we're seeing major regulatory shifts. We're talking public registries for high-risk systems under the EU AI Act, the GDPR's right to explanation, and mandatory algorithmic audits using structural causal models. The whole point of these tools is to force developers to internalize safety. You have to track the provenance of your data, prove your system is safe, and basically you can no longer use algorithmic opacity as an excuse.
This really hits the nail on the head. Ultimately, granting robots rights is a complete distraction. The agency attribution route we've been talking about, it already does the practical work of keeping human creators responsible. We absolutely do not need to invent new categories of electronic persons. We just need to apply our existing laws of product liability, tort, and agency to make sure that when a machine causes a legal injury, the humans who deployed it answer for it. So, I'm going to leave you with a provocative thought to chew on the next time an algorithm makes a decision for you or negotiates on your behalf. If AI is the phantom agent, are we actually ready to hold the human puppet masters accountable? The legal tools are completely there. Now it's just up to our institutions to use them. Thanks for joining me on this explainer today, and keep questioning the technology around you.